Welcome to the event. We're going to talk to you today a little bit about residence programs across Latin America and the Caribbean. We're going to start with a brief introduction to Henley & Partners and what's currently going on in the world of wealth migration. Then we're going to talk about that geography of Latin America and the Caribbean and what the issues are, what the programs are that can help people that want to move to that part of the world. And then if you've got questions and answers, please post them in the Q&A box that you should find somewhere on your chat ribbon, and then we will hope to address all of any of your questions you may have at the end. Your speakers today, I'm Peter Farino, Director of Tax Services at Henley & Partners, and responsible for making sure our clients get the right tax advice as we go around the world. I'm delighted to be joined by two very special guests today. Our Managing Director for Latin America, Michelle Sawyer, who is from our Henley & Partners team in the US, based in Florida, and he'll be talking about some of the programs there. We're also joined by an extra special guest from our friendly firm in Panama, Pro Panama. Alex Moron is the executive director there, and she will be talking to us with specific focus on Panama. A little bit about Henley & Partners. You probably know who we are. We're the world leaders in residence and citizenship by investment. With 60 offices around the world, where we've been for 25 years, leading the sector here and advising over 25,000 clients on investment migration options in more than 40 different countries. In addition to that, we work with over 15 governments to help them structure their residence by investment programs, which has raised more than $15 billion of foreign direct investment in those countries, which is a very tiny $1 billion each. We advise both sides of it, the high net worth individuals, the private clients, the entrepreneurs who are looking at moving and getting a residence or citizenship around the world. So we're very much focusing on what they need. At the same time, governments are looking to encourage the right kind of foreign investment and encourage the right kind of people to come to their country. So we have that link of discussing that with the governments as well. And we work hand in hand from both sides. And what we see the clients asking for is what we're able to discuss with the governments, and what we see that what the governments are looking to provide for people. We can tell if that really works for the kind of populations they're trying to attract. So it's quite a good holistic integrated offering. We have 60 offices around the world, and you can see from this map that you're never too many thousand kilometers from a Henley & Partners office. You see there's a lot in the US and the Caribbean and Central South America, in addition to Europe, Asia, and many other parts of the world. So like I say, over 60 offices now, and they're continuing to open at a pretty steady pace as we go. So what is wealth migration? I think we've done a lot of work reflecting that, how rich or how wealthy or rich people move around the world. And this is a trend that's been going on. We've been tracking it for just over 10 years, and the numbers increasingly will continue to increase almost every year, apart from obvious times when movement was a little bit more limited. So we track the number of millionaires that move every year. And last year it looked like 128,000, which was a decent increase on the previous year. And it's looking like that's also going to increase again to 135,000 this year. People move for a variety of reasons, growth opportunities and prospects, whether they're more attracted to go a pull factor from one country or a push factor out of the one they're in at the moment. There may be many reasons why people want to do that, or they're just at that point in their life where they want to retire, or their children want to go to a better university, and those kind of things drive that as well. So if we look at where the outflows, typically, the largest countries with the largest population of millionaires would logically be expected to have a large number of them leaving. And that's true for China and India. And you can also see further down countries where people may want looking for stability and growing markets to move to. And so that counts for most of that. The anomaly in the middle, of course, is the UK, which has made some very specific tax changes over the last few years, which has led to a large number of foreign nationals to look at other places to go. But there's also now, with a change in government, also led to some UK nationals looking to think, should they be leaving too, particularly if they've got a single liquidity event coming up, which might be more taxed than they were expecting it to be. And where they go to, there's a whole variety of places. The UAE is number one, because usually on the crossroads between Africa, Asia, and Europe, and happens to not have any tax either, which can be quite handy if people are tax driven in their motivation to move. The USA, being such a large part of the global economy, is always towards the top of the list there. Then you get havens of stability like Singapore, Canada, Australia, which are also very popular where English speakers want to go somewhere where it's a bit calmer. Then the European key countries like Italy, Switzerland, Greece, Portugal, the quality of life moves where people want to go somewhere with sunshine, um, good facilities, not necessarily always tax driven in some of those cases, but in others they are. There are options there, but we're not talking about Europe today. That one was a few weeks ago. We'll be repeating that again later in the year. And Japan, interestingly, flows into the top 10 as well. So those countries have residence and citizenship by investment programs, and they're designed to encourage people to go there. So I'm going to hand over to Michelle to take us through a little bit about the region, and then it's going to start talking about specific programs that we've got. So Michelle, thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter. So thank you for everyone for attending this webinar. I'm happy to eventually be speaking about Latin American residence by investment programs and some of the Caribbean citizenship by investment programs. Being a Mexican national and Latin American myself, I think this is a region of the world that it's becoming even more attractive to international investors to consider when they're planning their multi-passport or multi-residence strategy in order to be covered when it comes to different geographies, have access to different markets. I think it makes sense for people to start eventually consider not just the typical European programs, North America, but also Latin America is becoming a region where global investors are able to access through making an investment or maybe other alternative routes, and they can get residence in Latin America in a lot of countries. We will be focusing today in two of them. It doesn't mean there aren't opportunities elsewhere. But today we have some very special programs that we want to present you. And of course, the Caribbean citizenship by investment programs, which are structurally designed to provide that streamlined process to acquire an alternative passport. So as we can see in the map, most of the programs that we're able to assist are all over the world. In Latin America specifically, we will start with Central America, which is a great region in the world that still is spared from many of the different political conflicts, a very good region in the world where people still have a very affordable lifestyle type of living. And of course, they are able to access these two programs. So the first one we're going to be speaking about is Costa Rica. For those of you who don't know where Costa Rica is, strategically located in Central America. So that gives access to other places in the region. Certainly has been known due to its diversity. It's a growing economy, very young, small population, 5.2 million people, but definitely it's one of those places that people are being attracted because of the natural environment and, of course, the relaxed lifestyle that everyone knows about Costa Rica. A very safe environment for global investors to eventually, reside in Costa Rica, and at the same time, it is well connected to the rest of North and Central and Latin America. Okay. Now, what is important about Costa Rica is that they have different paths to eventually acquire residence in this country. It starts at 150,000 when it comes to making an investment, but we will be speaking also about other alternative options that are available for those people that may not want to invest, but they will qualify through other specific routes. So we can just go back one slide, Peter, very quickly. Thank you. So what are the key benefits of eventually acquiring residence in Costa Rica? Well, the first one is, of course, having a flexible residence permit that doesn't require you to live full-time in Costa Rica. It is possible to make an investment, and then eventually you can come with a low physical presence requirement to maintain that residence permit active, but at the same time, you need to keep your investment. So that is probably one of the options that people are considering as an alternative residence to have it, just in case you want to access to this region of the world. And maybe that is another possibility for them to, in the future, have a path to Costa Rica citizenship if they want to. Okay. So there's a favorable tax regime in Costa Rica that Peter is going to be speaking about a little bit later, but it's a very business-friendly environment and, of course, very stable economy as well. There is a path to citizenship for those that eventually reside in Costa Rica. The timeline for that specific milestone will be depending on your nationality of origin. So it's, as a general rule, 7 years. For people that come from Central American or Euro-American nationals or Spanish citizens, that time frame may be reduced to 5 years. Okay, so very flexible when it comes to including other family members, minor children, spouse, and of course, adult children until the age of 25 will qualify to be included as part of the dependents in an application. Now, let's talk about the categories that we have when it comes to the Residence by Investment program. So here we have 150,000 US as a minimum investment, and that could be in different asset classes. So there you have opportunities to eventually select which is the best asset class that suits your investment needs. So it could be through real estate, probably the most popular route that people are applying today when it comes to the Costa Rica Residence by Investment program. It could be also in Costa Rican companies, shares of that specific company or entity will make us eligible to apply for a residence permit. And then, of course, 150,000 in the Costa Rican stock market could also get us a residence permit if we fulfill the investment and, of course, have all the other requirements. Now, there are other options, as I mentioned. Residence by investment is probably the most popular for global investors to apply through this program. But we have another category, which is for fixed income. So this is for people that have, a regularly monthly income of at least $2,500 that it's received from abroad. That will also qualify us for applying to the residence program. And last but not least, there is a category for people that are retired. And this is a retirement, a pension that they receive, a lifetime pension of at least $1,000 per month. So that would be for the main applicant, of course, but that is, a very affordable amount for people that are retired and they want to acquire residence in Costa Rica. Of course, this is a very attractive option as well to get residence in the country. Okay, as in any country around the world, applicants, of course, need to have a clear criminal record, and of course, they need to be able to travel to Costa Rica in order for them to finalize the procedure. So in a nutshell, that is Costa Rica, a very attractive residence permit that can give us access to reside in Costa Rica, live, work, study. So it's a very comprehensive residence permit as well. And then maybe a path to citizenship for those people that actually indeed live in Costa Rica and may want to acquire that passport, which in fact is actually very powerful when it comes to global mobility. A lot of destinations out there that you can access as a Costa Rican national. So certainly an attractive jurisdiction to be considering in your investment migration strategy. Now, the next program that we're going to be speaking is Panama. So we have Alex here on the call who will be showing us a little bit more about what Panama offers and, of course, the residence options there. Alex?
Thank you, Michel, Peter. It's our pleasure as Pro Panama having this opportunity to be with you this morning. Greetings from sunny Panama. It is our morning. Okay, so we are actually neighbors of Costa Rica. So we are. Can you change the following step? So we're strategically positioned between Central and South America as well. We're on the borders with Costa Rica. We do like to say that we are in the center of the world. Even though we are literally the center just of the Americas, however, we do like to say that we are the center of the world. Nowadays, we're becoming much more popular for being the home of the Panama Canal. Of course, that is something that we do recognize as one of the most important assets of the world. And thanks to that, Panama has been trying to create an important platform for business, thanks to our friendly policies, business policies, thanks to our friendly tax regime or tax jurisdiction that Peter will be speaking on during this call later on. We do have a territorial taxation system. So Panama, we're a small country as well, 4.4 million Spanish speakers as well. However, something that we do recognize as one of our strengths is that we use dollars as our currency. So that gives the opportunity to our investors to understand that your investment and your businesses will be performing in a strong currency, rather your business or your investments. Next slide, please. Okay, so one of the key benefits, or I do like to say, the why Panama. I would like to start saying that we have one of the best places to retire in the world by the co-living system. And the reason why we have one of the best places to retire is because we do like to say that we have the both of the both worlds, right? We're a small country. We have a strong economy. We use dollars as our currency. We have a cosmopolitan city, which is a Panama City, and maybe 30 minutes far away, we have beaches, mountains. We are around seas. You have Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. You can have dinner in the Pacific and get lunch, or maybe dinner on the Atlantic. So we do have a good and beautiful mix, and of course, a very high standard of living that investors have been able to recognize this, and Panama has. We have been trying to position ourselves as a country that facilitates business and investment. We're the open doors of the America. We have more than 15 free trade zones based in Panama. We have the second one, the largest in the world. First one is Hong Kong. Second one is based in Panama. We are the host of more than 183 multinationals that are already established in Panama. So that says a lot. That says a lot. In a 4.4 million country, more than 183 multinationals already established, more than 15 free trade zones. Some of the benefits, this is like some of the important assets of the country. What do we have? What we're trying to offer. Now, in terms of the benefits of the program, all of our programs that we're going to speak about later on in the next slide, all of our programs leads into citizenship, meaning that in 5 years, you are eligible to apply for citizenship. The government of Panama does not require you to live in Panama, so there's no physical presence per se. You can acquire citizenship without living in the country. So you do your permanent residency, and you can continue living in your hometown and just visit Panama once every 2 years. All the applications, through the applications, you can include your dependents. That for government of Panama is considered your spouse, children's under 25, and your parents as well. So next slide, please. Okay, so what are the programs? We do have another programs that, we do not only have the 3 programs, we do have more. However, we wanted to focus on those 3. These are the ones that we consider that, starting from the point that are the ones that an investment is required itself, and there's are the ones that are more attractive to investors. So the first one is our red carpet visa. It is not named like that. The name is qualified investor, but we do like to name it red carpet visa. It gives immediate permanent residency in 30 days. And I don't need the investors to come to the country in order to do the submission. Okay? You send to me all the documents, or you send to us the documents via courier with a power of attorney, and we do the submission. And in 30 days, the government of Panama will be issuing your final resolution that grants your permanent residency. Now, we have 3 different vehicles of investment that you can choose in order to qualify for the program, which is the initial point, right? We do the investment, and then we submit the application for the permanent residency. We have an investment on real estate, which is the minimum amount of investment required is $300,000. The government of Panama does not put any limitations on where to buy the property or what to do with the property. This means that you can buy it in the city, in the mountains, in front of the river, in front of the beach, and started renting the property in digital platforms or long stays since the day one. We need the property to be titled under the main applicant's name. The second vehicle of investment that we have is through the stock exchange market of Panama for $500,000. So the average rates, and some questions, a lot of questions may pump up in this route or through these vehicle of investment. The investment needs to be done in the local stock exchange market. So we do have a more limited portfolio to offer. However, the brokerage houses that we work with, the typical portfolio that they are offering gives or is giving to our investors from 5 to 10%. Of course, may depend on the portfolio, the risk, and so many other variables that when the proper time comes and is a vehicle that you're interested in, of course, you can touch base with us in order to discuss it later on. The third vehicle of investment is $750,000 in a fixed term deposit in the banking sector of Panama, meaning that it needs to be a local bank that has all the licensing and registrations in place in order for you to be able to qualify for that road. So this program, as I mentioned before, it gives immediate permanent residency. We have these three vehicles of investment that you can choose one or the other. Another important thing is that you can start the investment you can qualify for the program with one vehicle of investment, meaning you can do the stock exchange market investment, and maybe later on, after 3 years, you decide to buy a property in Panama, you can change vehicles through time. Now, the requirement is you to keep the investment for 5 years. That's the only requirement, and come visit Panama once every 2 years in order to keep your legal status in place. Panama grants permanent residency lifetime, meaning that if you come to Panama, you visit Panama, and you keep the investment for 5 years, you become a resident of Panama forever, and it's up to you. It's eligible to apply for citizenship after 5 years. Now, there's some countries that have like a special treatment, like Spain or some countries in Latin America, that they have a benefit in which they can apply for citizenship in less time, maybe 1 or 2 years, depending on the country. Okay, second vehicle of investment is, second program is Friendly Nations. This gives, it has 2 vehicles of investment, $200,000 in a real estate route, same conditions. It's up to the investors where to buy it and what to do with the asset, with the property, and $200,000 fixed term deposit in the banking sector of Panama. However, this program is slightly different because it gives 2 years as a temporary resident of Panama, and then we will have to convert it into a permanent residency. So the path for citizenship is a little bit longer. You have to wait for 7 years instead of 5. And I need the investors to come to the country, do the process, go to the immigration service. So it is slightly different. However, on the other side, well, the investment is considerably less, and this program is only valid for certain countries, right? So we would have to check out your citizen in order to understand if you apply or not for this program, because there's only available for certain countries that are considered friends of Panama. And the last program that we will see in this presentation, it's called Forestry Investor. This program has a different type of investment, which is an investment in teak or in plant reforestations. The minimum amount of investment required is $100,000. However, is a program that we do recommend if you are an investor that understands and you do like green investments, because you have the option for, or rather, investing in preferred shares or in a piece of land that is doing or performing reforestation, and the return of the investment is in a more long-term investment. So if you have any questions regarding one of the three programs that we're offering you, please connect with us. Now, we do have another one, which is quite similar to the Costa Rica's program, is a pensionados visa. We need to prove that you have a pension for over $1,000 with your the proof that you have that in place. We submit the application. In Panama, we grant permanent residency for you to live and invest in the country. So, well, I think that for Panama's program, basically those are the main three programs that we have, and we're really looking forward to hear more from you and your interest.
Well, thank you so much, Alex. That was fascinating. Yeah, I think the main issue we want to talk about now is the tax side of it, because that's both countries are very similar in the respect that they both have a territorial tax system. So that makes them incredibly attractive for people who have income from a variety of sources around the world. Because if the income isn't generated in Costa Rica or Panama, it won't be taxed there. So even though a 25% tax rate may not look like the lowest you've ever seen, 25% of not a lot is also still not a lot. And also it's very, very handy with no inheritance tax, no gift tax, no wealth tax. Both countries are also, because the quality of life, and the thing I like when you look at those slides, the fundamental difference between the modern high-tech, downtown of Panama City or the wild forests of Costa Rica, you've got a bit of everything for everybody there. And so it's both of them, you've got the same kind of basic fundamental point about taxation, which is very attractive to people from around the world. Now, if you compare that to US and Canada, where a lot of people come from, I think all of them have tax residency based on them being more than 183 days in the country in the tax year. US also has like substantial presence tests, and Canada also has a continuing relationship test. So I think it's much simpler to prove whether you are or you're not tax resident in Costa Rica or Panama. And you've got that low rate. Whereas if you're looking at the US, then it does have the largest, longest, and most complicated tax code in the world. And that also always applies to green card holders and citizens, irregardless, as they would say, of how long they're spending in there. So you can obtain Costa Rica or Panamanian tax residence when you go, and you lose it when you leave. Or if you just have the residence but not tax residence, if you don't spend much time in the country, you don't become tax resident at all. So I think if comparing that to the Americas, it's very, very attractive. Of course, for US people that move there, they retain their US taxation. But for people that have been in the US on a work visa but want to stay in the same time zone, but maybe don't want to get a green card and have all of that worldwide taxation on their American assets, on their assets in America, then Panama and Costa Rica are very attractive for that purpose. Now, both of those also give a long-term path to citizenship, but there are other citizenship alternatives in this part of the world as well. So I'd like to bring Michelle back as well now to talk about the Caribbean, because multiple Caribbean islands, I love these photos we're showing you today. We've got so many beautiful places in the world, and citizenship of the various Caribbean countries is also an attractive part of your portfolio of residencies and citizenship. So let's talk about those. Michelle.
Thank you, Peter. And certainly the Caribbean, it's a very interesting place where people are acquiring citizenship by investment. Most of our clients, they will trigger a strategy in which they want to acquire an alternative passport as a fast solution to have second citizenship, multiple citizenships. And here we have 5 different countries, independent countries, that will offer that possibility for global investors to make an investment, whether that is a contribution, a non-refundable contribution. It could also be a real estate investment, or it could even be a government bond option for one specific nation here that will grant them citizens for successful applicants that go through the due diligence process. And of course, they're accepted by the nation. In exchange of this investment, they will receive citizenship for life. So this is an attractive way of diversifying jurisdictional risk when it comes to just having one passport. We have seen the advantages of not having to be restricted to one nation, the same way that people today bank with different banks, or eventually they structure their, wealth planning with different jurisdictions. Another level of protection for your wealth, for your family, is to acquire an alternative passport that gives you access not just from a global mobility, but also from a asset diversification possibility in here. So as you mentioned, Peter, we have 5 beautiful nations in the Caribbean that will offer this opportunity for global investors. So we will go by, alphabetical order here. So there's no preference. We certainly can assist in all of the 5 and the different investment routes that are available. And we'll start with Antigua and Barbuda, these 2 island nation located in the Caribbean, very popular when it comes to lifestyle investors. So a lot of our clients will certainly look Antigua because of its tax advantages that you'll be touching on with Peter in a moment, but certainly because of the lifestyle, and also, it has one of the largest populations out of the 5 nations that we're going to be speaking about. It's known because it's a very sunny destination. There's a lot of tourism. It's a tourism-driven economy. And of course, it allows people to have, that access from all over the world, mostly North America, Europe flights. They will go to Antigua and Barbuda, and it's relatively a very nice country to eventually be in. Okay, so what are the key benefits? Antigua actually has one of the most powerful visa-free access passports in the Caribbean. So, when it comes to the number of destinations that investors will acquire by being nationals of Antigua and Barbuda, that it's over 150 destinations. So from a travel perspective, it's a very good alternative passport to have. There are several investment routes available. The 2 most popular ones will be either a non-refundable contribution, which will start at $230,000. That will be for a main applicant. Of course, depending on the family composition, that contribution may be increased depending on the family members that are included in an application. But overall, this jurisdiction will be able to include your spouse, minor children, even parents, grandparents that are financially dependent, some siblings as well. So it's a very family oriented. There are available routes when it comes to the contribution. Family 6 or more will be able to even make a donation to the universities of the West Indies to have, a contribution that it's fixed as well. So a very, very interesting program here. When it comes to real estate, their minimum real estate investment is $300,000. So people that maybe they don't want to make a non-refundable contribution, but they prefer to have an underlying investment, the real estate option may be interesting to explore. Now, for those who haven't followed much the investment migration industry, we had a change last year over the summer when it comes to the investment threshold. All of the 5 different citizenship by investment nations in the Caribbean, they aligned their prices to the same level, very similar levels when it comes to a contribution, which made the real estate route to be even more attractive because, yes, it may be a little bit more capital at the beginning, but there's an opportunity to liquidate that investment after a holding period that could be between 5 to 7 years. And that's where it is worth exploring real estate opportunities in the Caribbean. And some islands will have more offering than others. So Antigua and Barbuda, definitely, it's one of those that has the most option for international investors. So next slide, please, Peter. So the second island that we have in the programs available is Dominica, another beautiful island known for its nature landscapes, a very peaceful environment there, smaller island when it comes to population. And of course, it has been in citizenship by investment world for quite some years. Dominica, it's very interesting because their real estate investment threshold minimums and the donation non-refundable contribution, they're all at $200,000. So for single applicant tends to be very attractive, but also for families. It's probably one of the fastest processing as of today when it comes to acquiring a citizenship from a practical perspective. We were talking about, some months, between 9 months to 12 months, depending on the country where we applied in practice, even though the government processing time it's a shorter period of time, but just to make it practical for our clients, I would say it's a good time frame to consider between 9 to 12 months, depending on the program that we're applying to. As I mentioned, Dominica has a minimum non-refundable contribution of $200,000 for a single applicant, and also for a real estate investment, that will be the same level of investment threshold. There's no minimum stay requirement here in Dominica, different than Antigua, for example, the previous island that we spoke about. It's the only island that has 5 days of physical presence within the first 5 years that you become a citizen. All the other nations, including Dominica, they don't have minimum physical presence requirement. The investors are not obliged to go before, during, or after the process, and also has visa-free access to over 140 destinations, including China, which is interesting for Dominica as well. Now, the next island that we're going to be talking about is Grenada. So Grenada Citizenship by Investment Program, it's certainly one of the most popular among our clients, and that is because it takes a lot of the boxes that people are looking for. A very beautiful place, also a developing nation with good connections around the world, an affordable investment threshold. Here we start with $235,000 for a single applicant. And of course, depending on the family composition, that minimum contribution will eventually be a little bit more, but it depends on specific number of family members and their ages as well. Now, interesting about Grenada is that, of course, you can get that passport for life. It is an attractive citizenship because it also provides access to the only island in the Caribbean that has a treaty with the US for the E2 investor visa. So none of the other 4 islands have this option. Grenada is the only one that will open that possibility as well. It's not just by having the citizenship that you can apply to the E2 visa for the US, which is a business route, access into the US, that's a possibility. But you need to reside 3 years at least in Grenada before you can actually become eligible to apply for that specific business route for the US, okay? But a very powerful passport, over 140 visa-free or visa-on-arrival travel destinations for Grenada, which makes it actually one of the most attractive process that we have. We assist our clients, their citizenship by descent, that is an option, citizenship by marriage, which becomes a possibility for those applicants that perhaps they are not married, but in the future they may want to add a spouse. That is a citizenship by marriage procedure in Grenada that it's possible. And so very, very interesting jurisdiction to consider as well. Now, the next one is probably one of the most known citizenship by investment programs in the world. It's actually one of the longest and most stable programs that has existed in our industry. St. Kitts and Nevis, for those who don't know, it's since the 1980s, it has been out there, eventually available for global investors. A very peaceful island, low population, but certainly, we have citizens all over the world because of this program that has provided foreign direct investment into the economy of St. Kitts, and that has allowed the country to eventually thrive in the Caribbean region. As of today, St. Kitts and Nevis has a minimum non-refundable contribution of $250,000 and within the Caribbean Citizenship by Investment Program, it has the most powerful passport of them all, with over 150 destinations, including the Schengen zone, of course, the UK, Singapore, Hong Kong, and so many other jurisdictions that will be available for those who become citizens of St. Kitts. Citizenship by descent is also another attractive element for St. Kitts and Nevis passport holders. After a year that you have been a citizen of St. Kitts, if you eventually have a future newborn, that child will get citizenship by descent automatically. So that is a very attractive for young couples or people that eventually want to secure this second passport for future generations, more of a legacy type of play, that will give them a very powerful asset, perhaps not a real estate or, a bank account to their children, but leaving them with another passport. Certainly in today's world, it's a very powerful asset to have. Very family oriented as well. You're able to include your spouse, children under the age of 26 that are financially dependent, parents above the age of 65, and then eventually, they need to comply with the same requirements as the main applicants when it comes to character and non-criminal record. But it's a very, very good passport to apply to. Now, last but not least, we have St. Lucia Citizenship by Investment Program. Same rationale. St. Lucia is making an attractive proposition for global investors that eventually want to make a non-refundable contribution, which today is $240,000 for a single applicant. But it is actually the only country in the Caribbean that has a government bond option. So this is a non-interest government bond that you still need to hold for a certain amount of years, which is 5 years. But that is another possibility for clients that maybe they are not interested to apply under a real estate route or make a contribution. They can put a little bit more capital and go through a government bond option, which makes it very attractive. That capital will eventually be liquidated and will come to the global investor after the holding period. And that allows us to keep the passport for life. Very attractive jurisdiction also from a lifestyle perspective. There's a lot of people that like St. Lucia, very beautiful island, a lot of beaches and nature, and then also very well connected to the rest of the world, specifically North America and Europe, with international flights coming to St. Lucia. And I think we've covered, as a general snapshot, I could be speaking about the Caribbean, the different elements that differ from one country to another. More than happy to eventually to connect to our audience individually to make an assessment, which may be the most suitable program to eventually to apply to based on your personal circumstances. What we do at Henley is we have a non-biased approach when it comes to which program we assist you, and of course, which investment route we assist you as well. So we will understand your family composition, your circumstance, your goals. It may be that those goals may be tax driven. So Peter is going to speak about, what are the differences, tax regimes and tax benefits that these Caribbean nations will offer for global investors. Peter?
Thanks, Michelle. I think people come to these five and they tend to think it's they're interchangeable, but the more you dig into them, the more differences you notice, and that's even before you actually go to the places and see which one you feel most at home in. And I think it's from a tax perspective, two of them have no income tax, which is Antigua and Barbuda or St. Kitts and Nevis, and both of those are particularly attractive for people that are actually looking to move for that reason. The others have similar tax rates of between 28 and 35% if you become a tax resident there. You need to be there more than half the year or have your permanent home there to become a tax resident in Dominica, Grenada, or St. Lucia. And if you do, I say your income would be taxable on between 28 and 35, and tax returns would need filing every year. So I think the key issue for people is, are they looking to relocate or not? Where are their assets coming from? Where's their income generated from? Because, say, if you're primarily focused on the passport, the tax may not be the biggest issue, and it's things like visa-free access to China or the E2 for the US may be your determining factor. But if you do actually want to move there and retire there and live there, then a very simple income tax system is often a very big advantage at the end of the day. And of course, we can discuss that with everybody as and when they go. The downside of not having income tax is there aren't that many double tax agreements. So if you need to be tax resident of another country and get a tax residency certification to avoid withholding tax in another country, it can be a little bit fiddly, but that just means taking advice early on and making sure we're all clear what assets you've got, what income you've got, so we can forecast the impact on your tax position by taking up residence or citizenship in these countries and ultimately residence and tax residence. So that was really all I sort of had to say from that overview. We're welcome to take questions. I'm just looking on here and it seems like we haven't had a huge amount of questions at the moment. So obviously I'll just say that is presumably due to Michelle and Alex and their great, fantastic explanations there, which clearly means that no questions were left open there. So I'll give you just a moment or two to type in some questions if you want to. While you do that, I would like to thank both of our panelists for today for giving up their mornings to come and join us and take us on that fantastic tour of all those beautiful locations. And if you have questions about any of these, then here's who we are and here's how to get hold of us. Michelle covers the whole of Latin America for Penley and Partners, and Alex is our go-to person in Panama. So feel free to contact either of us. And if you've got broader tax questions about any of the programs we have anywhere in the world, then do feel free to reach out to me as well. And we will always be delighted to hear from you. So if at the end of that there are still no questions, then they have clearly done a fantastic job. So I would like to thank both of our panelists for their time today. I appreciate you joining and also your help in putting all this together. And this will be on our website or YouTube channel somewhere along the way for all of your friends that missed it and want to hear what there is to hear about Costa Rica, Panama, and the Caribbean. Point them in that direction, and we'll be back with a few more tax webinars later in the year. So thank you, everybody. Thanks to our panelists. Thank you to all of you for joining and for not giving us too many difficult questions. And we will see you all at the next one. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Peter.
Bye-bye.